Blue Driver Nation, is your heater not working? Is your car running on cold? Is it overheating? This could be caused by a failed thermostat. Did you pull a P0128 or a P1258 with your Blue Driver? If so, it could be your thermostat. These leak around the gasket or they do fail altogether. Chris.
This is an easy job, no special tools required, just about anyone can do it in their garage or their driveway. We will caution you that if you're going to start working on your cooling system, you want to make sure everything is nice and cool. The engine's been off for a long time before you open anything up. You don't want to expose yourself to hot coolant, or if you open the radiator cap while it's hot, you could spray hot coolant all over your garage.
This is definitely a fix that you should not fear, so let's get to it. Here's the tools you'll need to change your thermostat. Pliers, or hose clamp pliers, a 10mm socket, a socket wrench, a torque wrench, a pan, the coolant, of course, funnel, and a tarp.
All right, so step one is to drain the coolant out of the car. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the coolant fill cap and put it aside. To drain the radiator, we're going to loosen the petcock on the radiator, which is on the passenger side near the bottom, right down here.
Do you need to drain all the coolant during this step, Chris?
Not necessarily. Basically, the thermostat is about halfway up the engine block, so you don't have to drain everything out. But this car was an old rental. As far as I know, it's never been serviced, so we're going to drain all the coolant and replace it. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen this hose clamp right here on this radiator hose coming out of the thermostat outlet.
It's good room to work on this one, yeah, Chris?
Oh, it's great.
It's awesome.
On my project car at home, the thermostat is right on the front of the engine, right here, so it's just perfectly easy to get to. Not so much here.
Don't make this a bloody knuckles version.
No pain, no gain. Wish I hadn't said that.
Do a close-up of his thumb. Did he just busted his thumb open? Ooh, it's bleeding. Sweet. Blood.
You're doing this next time.
Safety first. Probably should have done that in the first place.
All right, next we're going to disconnect the hose from the thermostat outlet. To remove the thermostat housing, we remove one 10mm bolt and one 10mm stud. The bolt is on the driver's side, right here, and the stud is on the passenger side, down here. All right, and then if you're lucky, as soon as you get this stud out, then the thermostat housing will just lift away.
Ooh, that was awesome. And it looks like this one was leaking. And we have the new part here ready to go. So, Chris, when you buy a part like a thermostat, talk to me about how you get your part. I know when I go and I get my part, I'm looking for not the lowest end cheap thing, because regardless of warranty, I don't want it failing and I don't want to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, when you go down to a parts store, a lot of the time they'll have a couple of different grades of parts. Usually, depending on the application, I might get what's kind of middle of the road. A lot of the time I get my parts online. I can't say exactly where, but we'll just say I have a lot of magnets on my toolbox at home.
So let's get the new part on the car and get the car back on the road.
Let's do it.
As you reinstall the thermostat, the new thermostat into the housing, you want to make sure that all the mating surfaces have been cleaned up, both on the car and on the thermostat housing itself, and make sure the gasket is good. Many times these are failing because the gasket is failing, not necessarily the thermostat. A leak there is just as bad as a bad thermostat, so you want to make sure to avoid that.
Time to reinstall the housing. And the nut goes on the stud on the driver's side. And then the bolt on the passenger side.
Need a finer tooth wrench.
And now we're going to torque to 89 inch-pounds or 7 foot-pounds. Don't get those mixed up. Perfect. Now the hose goes back on. Watch that hose clamp. It could be a little sharp and rusty. And now the hose clamp. As you work this back on, it's a good idea to try to leave it in a spot where it's easy to get pliers on it in case you need to remove it again in the future. Now we insert a funnel, and then we're going to start pouring in our coolant. This is a pre-mixed DexCool compatible coolant. And one tip, hold the jug sideways like this so you don't get the fluid surging and pouring all over the place. Now we'll just wait a second and some air will probably come out of the system. If you want, you can also gently squeeze a hose, not too hard or you might spray coolant out. And this can also help get some air out of the system. You can see the bubbles there. And we'll top it up a bit more. For the next step, we're going to have to start the engine. So we're going to take the coolant filler cap, we're going to put it on, but we're only going to engage it a little bit, just enough that it doesn't come off.
Okay, we're going to start getting the air out of the system. This time we're going to start the car and run it at 2,500 RPM for 40 seconds. Okay, now we're going to shut the car off and check the coolant.
Carefully remove the cap and top up the coolant. And the cap back on, just enough to engage the threads.
Okay, we got quite a bit of air out of the system. This time we're going to run at 2,500 RPM, this time for 30 seconds.
We're going to carefully remove the cap again and top it up.
Okay, we're going to restart again, got just a little bit more air out of it. This time we're going to start and run at 2,500 RPM for 20 seconds.
And we'll top it up one last time. Now we're going to fill the coolant bottle, about 400 milliliters of coolant. Now the coolant cap goes on all the way. Remember, from this point on, the system could be under pressure, so we don't want to take the cap off unless the engine's completely cool.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch now. We're going to start the car, take it to 2,500 RPM until the engine comes up to temperature. That assures us that the thermostat is on. We'll also get better confirmation if the heater in fact works. So bring it up to start the car, bring it to 2,500 RPM. Okay, we have the car up to temperature now. Heater's nice and warm. So the very final step, take it to 3,000 RPM for 4 seconds, back to idle for 4 seconds. We're going to do this 3 times. Okay, now pretty simple. We're just going to shut the car off and let the engine cool.
Now everything's nice and cool. You can see the coolant level in the bottle has dropped a little bit, so we're just going to top that up.
Okay, the final step in this repair is to clear your code and do your drive cycle to reset your monitors. Remember, you will not pass an emission test until your monitors are reset. Drive cycle might take you 40 to 45 minutes. To see when that's complete, run a smog check with your blue driver. We hope that this bloody knuckle version helps you get your car on the road faster, those tough places to get to on the thermostat. This thermostat was kind of tough location. On your car, it might be in a different place, but the steps to take it off and get it back in and get your car back on the road are much the same. Chris, you using gloves next time? Yeah. We've got a ton of other great information on bluedriver.com, and also for this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. We got new stuff coming all the time. So until next time,
Beer no fix.